Tomorrow, the 16th of May 2026, the cosmic architecture radically, violently, and irreversibly solidifies into a state of absolute, undeniable, and crushing material density as we wake up to the monumental, historically unprecedented reality of a new moon supermoon perfectly conjunct the sun in the heavy, unyielding, and fiercely foundational domain of Taurus. Do not look to the heavens tomorrow expecting a day of fleeting intellectual curiosities, rapid communication, chaotic emotional shifting, or the passive, ethereal manifestation of spiritual daydreams. Instead, completely brace your physical vessel and tightly secure your complex mental architecture for a profound, undeniable, and wildly explosive crisis of absolute material genesis. We are standing at the exact, terrifying geometric epicenter of the most powerful, densely packed lunar event of the entire year. The sun and moon are perfectly fused at the exact same degree, creating a blinding, unified force of creation, while simultaneously Mercury, the planet of intelligence, data, and negotiation, sits screaming at the absolute final critical degrees of Taurus, forcefully demanding that you completely finalize, lock down, and permanently secure your material intelligence before the energy shifts. This specific, awe-inspiring planetary signature is an astrological event of immense, immediate, and crushing physical gravity. It represents the ultimate, terrifying, and completely unavoidable intersection between the massive, unshakable financial empire you have secretly visualized and the heavy, stubborn, and objectively measurable physical actions required to plant that empire directly into the concrete soil of reality. To successfully navigate the profound, intensely heavy, and violently fertile depths of tomorrow without having your fragile nervous system completely crushed by its intense, high-gravity reality check, we must meticulously, surgically, and unemotionally dissect exactly what this heavy cosmic ignition explicitly requires of your microscopic daily life, the sprawling architecture of your wealth, the delicate machinery of your biological body, and the ultimate, towering trajectory of your permanent, unshakable legacy. When we slowly, deliberately, and with agonizing, deeply clinical, and profoundly unfeeling precision turn our unwavering, highly critical, fiercely analytical, and completely dead-eyed gaze toward the sacred, load-bearing architecture of your vast accumulating wealth, we are completely abandoning the realm of theory. We are ruthlessly examining the massive, deeply complex, and heavily guarded blueprint of your expanding financial empire. The monumental, historically significant cosmic events of May 16 unconditionally and aggressively dictate an atmosphere of absolutely ruthless, active materialization and extreme, highly disciplined financial anchoring. You must deeply, fundamentally, and on a microscopic, violently vibrating cellular level understand exactly what this transit requires. You must accept that the wealth generated, managed, scaled, and fiercely protected under the crushing, exposing, and highly fertile gravitational influence of a massive Taurus supermoon is absolutely, unequivocally not based on empty digital hype. It is entirely divorced from abstract floating theories, and it utterly rejects fast, chaotic, anxiety-driven trading. Your empire will absolutely not be built on the fragile, temporary, and pathetic foundation of viral, fleeting social media trends. It categorically, undeniably, and permanently does not, and will never, come from maintaining disorganized, floating ideas that completely lack a concrete, heavy, and physically executable business model. Money tomorrow is absolutely not a quiet, polite, or gentle energetic exchange. It is a heavy, brutal, and profoundly demanding physical force. It responds exclusively, entirely, and without a single microscopic exception to the dense, grounded vibration of absolute, terrifying material stability. It demands unquestioned physical endurance, the willingness to sweat, and the agonizingly hard, relentless accumulation of tangible, real-world assets. The profound, undeniable, highly magnetic, and deeply heavy energetic frequency generated by this specific alignment will fiercely, aggressively, and without a single microscopic ounce of pity, sympathy, or mercy illuminate the toxic, rotting, and entirely disorganized zones of financial instability that are currently paralyzing your path. You are going to be forcefully, physically, and agonizingly forced to sit down in absolute silence and stare directly, without blinking, turning away, or making a single pathetic excuse at the exact, terrifying places where your financial foundation is dangerously thin. Because Mercury, the planet of contracts, commerce, and negotiation, is currently screaming at the absolute final, desperate, and highly critical degrees of this money-driven sign, the unyielding universe is forcefully handing you a terrifying, non-negotiable deadline. Time has completely run out for mere consideration, endless planning, and fearful hesitation. You must immediately, without hesitation, sign the physical contracts. You must brutally lock in the heavy investments and aggressively secure the tangible, concrete resources you desperately need to survive the coming storms. The universe is forcefully, unapologetically demanding that you immediately stop relying on hopeful, airy, and blind expansion. You must instantly begin weaponizing your raw, physical discipline to fundamentally secure your permanent empire through the sheer, unstoppable power of concrete, relentless accumulation. You must violently force your grandest, most terrifying financial visions directly into the heavy, uncompromising dirt and ruthlessly demand that they grow. The material world is yours to relentlessly conquer today, when we slowly, deliberately, and with an agonizing, deeply clinical, and completely unforgiving precision, turn our unwavering, highly critical, fiercely analytical, and completely dead-eyed gaze directly toward the intricate, breathtakingly miraculous, and unbelievably complex biological machinery of your physical body. We are not looking at a mere vessel of flesh and bone. When we examine the incredibly delicate, highly sensitive, and profoundly vibrating architecture of your foundational energetic health, the momentous, highly gravitational, and radically shifting celestial events of May 16 issue a severe, inescapable, and highly urgent biological warning. This is not a gentle, whispered suggestion from the universe. It is a critical, terrifying, and blaring cosmic mandate strictly regarding the unyielding, militaristic management of immense, suffocating physical stagnation, massive, bone-deep lethargy, and the highly dangerous, incredibly destructive somatic manifestation of entirely unexpressed, deeply suppressed material hoarding. You must deeply, fundamentally, and on a microscopic, violently vibrating cellular level, fully comprehend that your physical vessel is absolutely, unequivocally, not merely a passive, numb, or comfortably detached observer to this violent, grinding, and intensely heavy astrological friction. Your biological body is not an innocent bystander in this cosmic transition. It is going to bear the direct, agonizing, highly somatic, and deeply visceral brunt of this massive, exhausting, and all-consuming cosmic download. The strict, unyielding, and purely earthy, dense energy of the Taurus Supermoon, combined inextricably with the heavy, baking solar fire and the highly anxious, desperate culmination of Mercury, creates a profound, inescapable, and violently heavy internal pressure directly within the complex, interconnected, and highly sensitive network of your deeply buried skeletal system. This crushing gravitational force is specifically targeting your heavy, load-bearing joints, your stiffening neck, your highly sensitive, vibrating vocal cords, and the delicate, metabolic engine of your thyroid. The toxic, stagnant, and actively rotting energetic residue of your past physical neglect is reaching an absolute, terrifying critical mass. Your cowardly, repeated avoidance of heavy, necessary lifting, your painfully swallowed, unexpressed boundary violations, and your agonizingly blocked, suffocated physical action are no longer abstract, floating psychological concepts. This decaying emotional and mental matter is currently being forcefully, relentlessly, and mercilessly pushed completely out of its hidden, comfortable psychological depths. It is being violently injected directly into your physical form, flooding your delicate veins, stiffening your muscles, and locking your skeletal structure as pure, unadulterated, and boiling physiological density. You are rapidly becoming a pressurized leaden container of trapped, frantic material gravity. This extreme, polarizing, and deeply uncomfortable internal pressure will not remain silent or hidden. It will easily, rapidly, and painfully manifest as intense, nerve-grinding, and utterly debilitating stiffness in your neck and heavy, burdened shoulders that actively, maliciously threatens to completely shatter your biological ability to move, look around, or find peace, you will experience severe, unyielding surges of chaotic physical heaviness, completely demanding to be utilized by your aching, exhausted muscles, forcefully dragging you down into the literal dirt. Expect sudden, blinding and agonizing throat tension that pulses relentlessly with the terrifying, unreleased frequency of unorganized physical boundaries and unspoken swallowed demands for respect. You will inevitably feel a profound, heavy, and suffocating sense of physical, agonizing lethargy, a bone-deep weariness that feels like wet cement in your blood. Yet it is accompanied by the absolute, unavoidable biological need for immediate, aggressive, and explosive physical grounding. You absolutely, categorically, and unequivocally cannot simply sit still in a comfortable, cushioned chair and hope this crushing weight miraculously lifts. You cannot attempt to logically rationalize, psychoanalyze, or quietly think your way out of this extreme, raging physical gravity. You cannot blindly, cowardly ignore your way out of this specific, heavy, and deeply demanding low-frequency signature by distracting yourself with meaningless digital consumption, shallow entertainment, or passive resting that only breeds further decay. The universe demands sweat, not sleep. The absolute best, most fundamentally effective, and truly, unequivocally only way to successfully manage your fragile physical health, protect your vibrating nervous system, and preserve your delicate sanity tomorrow is through highly disciplined, intensely rigorous, and profoundly silent physical exertion. Heavy, methodical, and profoundly slow weightlifting is not a cosmetic exercise tomorrow, it is a life-saving biological necessity. You must forcefully command your aching, restricted joints to violently release the trapped, heavy, and stagnant energy choking your marrow through the sheer lifting of heavy iron. Structured, incredibly deep, and agonizingly slow stretching is strictly required to force your hyperactive nervous system and your tight, restricted muscles into a state of absolute, undeniable physical submission. You must physically tear the stagnation out of your fascia, demanding that your body remember its inherent primal strength. Alternatively, rigorous, highly disciplined, and relentlessly focused walking completely barefoot on the raw, unpaved, and heavy earth in complete, uninterrupted silence is absolutely and categorically mandated by the heavy, electrifying geometry of the stars. You must consciously, intentionally, and forcefully exhaust the trapped material energy before it permanently crystallizes inside your biological wiring. You must purge, lift, and sweat until the suffocating density is entirely drained into the heavy soil, leaving your body a hollow, pristine, and unshakable pillar of strength. To completely, utterly, and ruthlessly dominate and perfectly harness the overwhelming, frictional, and highly fertile power of the 16th of May 2026, you must instantly, without a single microscopic second of hesitation, implement a strict, tactical, minute-by-minute timeline that expertly, surgically turns this oppressive cosmic overload and atmospheric heavy lifting into your ultimate, undeniable strategic advantage. Your action tomorrow must be incredibly precise, coldly calculated, fiercely efficient, and relentlessly, consistently focused on structured manifestation from the exact moment your heavy eyes open. When you wake up, do not allow yourself to instantly reach for your glowing screens, nor can you succumb to the heavy, chaotic, and paralyzing flood of digital information, rapid global news, notification, and external noise that will inevitably attempt to hijack your fragile, waking mind. You must rise immediately with the terrifying, cold, and robotic precision of a highly seasoned, battle-hardened master builder stepping directly and unapologetically into a massive, sprawling construction zone. Your entire morning must be completely defined by a strict, unyielding, highly physical, and utterly solitary routine of brutal organization and material prioritization. Do not, under any circumstances, attempt to consume chaotic opinions, analyze shifting political landscapes, or attempt to absorb the frantic, meaningless, and draining anxieties of the collective global network during the first hour of your day. Spend the very first 30 minutes of your day in absolute, terrifying, uninterrupted silence, physically writing out with a heavy physical pen and a thick piece of paper the absolute biggest, most intimidating, and most concrete financial goal, structural investment, or deeply complex material asset you are claiming for the next 6 months. You must clearly and specifically identify this target not as a vague, nebulous concept floating in your mind, but as a concrete, undeniable, and heavy material reality that you are contractually, spiritually obligated to your own immortal soul to absolutely build, structure, and physically execute. As you aggressively move into the core, demanding working hours of the afternoon, the energetic gravity and the agonizing physical friction of the supermoon will inevitably reach its most intensely pressurized, highly volatile, and dense peak. You will inevitably face sudden, shocking demands for your physical resources, the maddening external unreliability of those who lack your endurance, or specific, toxic individuals who fiercely, maliciously attempt to drag you into their chaotic, disorganized financial storms. When you inevitably hit a literal or financial wall tomorrow, you absolutely must not react with hot-headed, frantic panic, nor should you allow yourself to collapse into a state of helpless, overwhelmed, or paralyzed physical exhaustion. You must immediately react with the cold, dead-eyed, and chilling determination of an unstoppable, terrifying, and completely unfeeling stone monolith. Analyze the chaotic information with clinical detachment. Detach your mind entirely from the painful emotional sting of sudden, unexpected material delays, and systematically, brutally push the complicated problem forward with chilling, relentless, and machine-like physical endurance. While the monumental, terrifying, and deeply demanding high-gravity friction of this specific celestial phase undeniably shocks, fundamentally reshapes, and completely alters the psychological, mental, and material landscape of every single individual currently walking the face of the earth, the specific, inescapable, and highly focused geometry of the cosmos directs the absolute, blinding maximum intensity of this heavy, crushing pressure directly toward 3 specific, targeted zodiac signs. For these 3 distinct, powerful archetypes, the 16th of May 2026 is categorically and undeniably not just a loud, highly distracting day of passing physical fatigue and minor financial inconveniences. Rather, it is a profound, unavoidable, and deeply necessary psychological and physical choke point in their grand evolutionary journey. The very first and most profoundly impacted sign standing directly at the absolute ground zero of this cosmic reality check is Taurus. Because the Sun, the New Moon Supermoon, and the highly anxious, culminating energy of Mercury are all currently colliding violently directly within your own sovereign earthly domain, your entire fundamental operating system is undergoing a terrifying, agonizing, and massively fertile metamorphosis. Tomorrow, the universe forcefully and unapologetically throws you directly into the chaotic, messy, and deeply demanding trenches of extreme personal reinvention. You are going to feel an intense, almost agonizing, and deeply heavy level of internal gravity building within your physical bones. Your desperate, stubborn desire to blindly hold on to your old, comfortable, and predictable identity will violently collide with immovable, concrete walls of undeniable, heavy cosmic pressure, demanding that you build a completely new, vastly expanded version of yourself. Taurus, the universe is forcefully demanding that you finally learn the agonizing but absolutely necessary lesson of directed, strictly disciplined physical manifestation rather than stubborn, fearful hoarding. You must intentionally harness your immense, roaring, internal physical power and channel it exclusively into cold, calculating, and relentless architectural mastery of your new life. You are planting the single most important, massive seed of the entire decade tomorrow. Do not dare plant it in toxic soil. The second sign thrust directly and violently into the cold, heavy, and transformative audit of this alignment is Scorpio. With this massive, blinding supermoon occurring directly across the sky in your sector of intimately bound partnerships, binding contracts, and open enemies, your entire relational framework is going to be brutally tested for weaknesses. This convergence mandates a complete, uncompromising, and immediate physical elimination of any relationship, business partnership, or legal contract that lacks absolute, undeniable material loyalty. You are the sign of the intense subterranean strategist, the complex soul who thrives exclusively on hidden control and deep psychological bonds. Tomorrow, however, the universe forcefully and violently drags you into the harsh, demanding, and blinding light of an inescapable relational audit. You will feel an overwhelming, suffocating, and almost unbearable pressure to justify your sprawling emotional connections, not through deep feelings or unspoken promises, but through direct, undeniable, and unapologetic physical proof of loyalty and financial equity. You must stop endlessly psychoanalyzing your partners and finally demand that they bring concrete, undeniable, and measurable value to the heavy, iron table you have built. If they cannot pull their own physical weight, you must ruthlessly, coldly, and permanently sever the cord. The third sign destined for a monumental, reality-shattering, and deeply material experience on this specific day is Leo. With this massive structural friction demanding immediate, concrete execution, directly activating the absolute highest, most public, and most dominant sector of your astrological chart regarding your grand career, your public legacy, and your ultimate worldly empire, you are standing directly in the crosshairs of a profound, undeniable material and professional reckoning. You usually survive the harshness and unpredictability of the world by seamlessly operating through sheer charisma, flawlessly hiding within the boundless realms of your massive creative imagination, and expertly demanding attention through your radiant warmth. However, on May 16, the comfortable, intricate, and safe narrative of formless, charismatic potential you have carefully constructed is going to be violently and entirely burned away by this heavy, shocking cosmic demand for immediate, messy, and undeniable physical proof of your authority. You will suddenly and painfully realize that perfectly visualizing your ultimate career destiny or confidently talking about your goals does absolutely nothing to secure them if you cowardly refuse to take the actual, terrifying leap into the heavy, dense, and physically exhausting arena of actual, measurable labor. The universe aggressively demands that you put your massive, heavy crown down, roll up your sleeves, and forcefully, physically build the towering, unshakable concrete foundation that your massive public empire desperately requires to survive the coming storms. In ultimate, definitive, and unwavering final conclusion, tomorrow, the 16th of May 2026, is categorically destined to be a day of monumental structural gravity, intense, unrelenting physical pressure, and incredibly necessary reality checking that will deeply, permanently, and undeniably echo for the absolute entirety of the remaining decade. It is a defining, historically significant tipping point in your personal evolution, where the deeply visionary, hungry human soul is forcefully and unapologetically required to permanently shed the soft, comforting, and dangerous illusions of unearned potential, spiritual bypassing, and chaotic, disorganized dreaming. Instead, you must actively, consciously, and deliberately put on the heavy, impenetrable, and terrifying armor of cold, absolute, and relentless physical execution. You absolutely cannot escape, outsmart, negotiate with, or cleverly bypass the immense, crushing, and deeply penetrating friction of this extremely demanding, high-stakes cosmic alignment. By aggressively, consciously, and deliberately applying a state of extreme, unwavering, and militant structural discipline to your microscopic, minute-by-minute daily actions, and by maintaining an intense, fearless, and completely unbroken mental focus on actively, brutally, and physically forcing your massive visions into concrete reality, you can expertly utilize this heavy, oppressive atmospheric alignment to fundamentally secure your permanent, unshakable, and radically sovereign legacy. Walk boldly, stoically, and with terrifying absolute and machinic discipline directly into the roaring, unpredictable fires of your own absolute truth. The vast, uncompromising cosmos demands absolutely nothing less than your ultimate, undeniable, and flawless physical execution tomorrow, and it is entirely, unequivocally within your sovereign, unyielding, and absolute power to stand up, claim your radical reality, and flawlessly, permanently deliver it.